welcome to Shady Bakes. Thank you so much for coming back. I hope you enjoyed my first video on making the perfect meringue for French macarons. If you missed that video, I will pop the link in the description box below. So today we're going to be talking about my favourite part of the macaron process, the Macronage. Did you know that macarons were first made in 1533? They obviously looked and tasted quite a bit different to how they do now, but they were made for a queen who was going to be the Queen of France, and she was Italian, and they were made by one of her Italian chefs. To macronage just means to mix your batter in a certain way so that you get the perfect consistency for your macaron. There are lots of videos out there with people's tips and tricks, and today I'm going to show you my way to macronage for the perfect macaron. As you can see, I have added my stiff meringue to my bowl, and I've put in 1/3 of my almond flour. If you haven't seen my meringue video already, it is in the link below in the description box. So this is sped up, but I quite gently mix and fold the almond flour into the meringue. I only really do this gently so that almond flour doesn't go everywhere. And then I do this to all 3 parts until it is completely mixed in like this. Always a bit messy. So in this case, I am splitting my batter in half because I'm going to be colouring it in 2 different colours. But I'm just going to show you what I did with this half. So I've put in my blob of colour. This is where I put colour in if I want it to be nice and bright. Otherwise, I would have put it into the meringue. And I start by going in a round motion and then squashing it down the middle. Some people turn their bowl when they do this, but you can see which bits you have and haven't got from the colour, which is quite helpful. So round and squish, and that is quite a firm squish. Then I start pressing it around the bowl. I tend to go in one direction and then the other just to make sure I haven't missed any of it. And I'm just squashing the air out here. I had a nice firm meringue, but I don't want lots of bubbles. I want to squish those out. Now, as you can see, that is dropping off in big blobs, so it's not ready yet. And the reason I wanted to show you this particular video is because I do show you in a little while the figure of 8, which I hear a lot of people talk about. They say to see if you can do a figure of 8 with the batter, and actually I do find that I can do a figure of 8 with the batter at a too early stage and at a too late stage as well. So that's not particularly something that I use to decide whether my batter is ready or not, and you will see that in a moment. So still squashing it around the bowl. It does start to thin out. And I want it to run off my spatula like a ribbon, folding on itself. And when it starts to get to that stage, that's when I have to be really eagle-eyed, because I'm looking for a very specific thing once that ribbon has hit the batter in the bowl. So that was starting to run off the spatula there. I tend to scrape the bowl to make sure I haven't missed anything. This is definitely my favourite part of the macaron process. Right, so it's starting to run off now, but you can see it wasn't quite in one ribbon. There's always going to be a bit on the end of the spatula that doesn't come off with the rest. That's absolutely fine, but you want the most of it to come off in one go. Lots of you will be doing a lot larger batter recipe than me, but so you might have to work a little harder. There you go. Can you see it's now kind of running off all in one go? And this is where I try the figure of 8. So you can see it's quite easy to do a figure of 8 there, but I could well have overmixed or undermixed at this point, I feel anyway. So I'm going to show you with a different colour now. So this is a nice grey that I made quite recently, and you can see that my ribbon is flowing and it's landing on itself, but the edges of that ribbon, especially the first part of the ribbon, are still quite separate from the rest of the batter. When it's done properly, when it's ready, it won't completely disappear into itself, which is what I think some people are expecting to happen. But the edges of those ribbons, especially those first parts, really do fade and merge into themselves. And that line becomes quite blurred, which you can see it is there. Really blurred lines. So to me, that batter's ready. I'm just going to show you with one more because this has chocolate in it, and I often don't go quite as far if I've got cocoa powder in. So I've added also quite a lot of red food colouring here, so it did go quite quickly. Just squishing that around the bowl. So this time my ribbon will flow in one, there you go. But it might not quite sink into itself as quickly. It should take about 10 seconds to sink in well enough. There you go. So the lines there aren't quite as blurred as with the grey, but they have merged to a certain degree. I love these small bowls. They are in my blog post about my favourite macaron tools, as are lots of the other things like the spatula. So if you head to shadybakes.com, you can find and click on those and pop them in your basket. There we go. So I think I was satisfied with that batter now. You see those lines starting to merge almost as much as the grey one, but these made some lovely red velvet macarons. So there you go. I think I'm going to pop that into a bag now. And then this is a Macronage video, but I have popped in a little bit at the end just to prove to you that they did all go into the oven and come out well, and that I didn't overmix or undermix them. I will be doing a video on colouring because that has been highly requested, and I will also do a separate video on piping and baking as well, to try and give you as much information as possible. And then you should be able to watch them as a whole series if you're a beginner. So this is where I made an ombre of greys, which I did quite like the look of, even though I wasn't sure about having grey macarons. And it's just using a Macaron black. I did 1 drop in one, 2 in the other, and 3 in the next. So you should, when you're piping, if your macaron batter's the right consistency, they should spread from one circle to another once you've slammed them, really. They shouldn't go completely flat. They should still have a bit of body to them, but they shouldn't have any little nipples sitting on top. You just have to pop the bubbles out and then pop them in the oven. And there we go. Thank you so much for coming. I hope the video was helpful for you today. Now, I was only going to do 3 parts, but lots of people have been asking me about colouring their batter. So my next video is going to be all about different ways to colour your batter. I'll see you then. Bye.